Friends, to pay your tax in Nigeria, tax authority can take your money in the bank and also sell your business without a court order. To pay your tax authority can now take your money in the bank and also sell your business without your consent and without a court order. Dear friends, yes, you heard me very well. The tax authorities can now take your money in your bank account, collect any of your assets anywhere in the world, sell off your business, and use assets to pay your tax if you fail or refuse to do so. Yes, the new tax laws have empowered tax authorities to direct any person anywhere in the world who holds or will hold in custody any of your assets, money or funds, to apply those assets, money or funds, to pay your tax, which has become due and payable, and also where the tax has become final and conclusive without your consent and without a court order. One of such persons in possession of your money is your bank, and that is the reason for the so much noise being made about tax authorities directing your bank to debit your account with them to pay your tax. But please note that it is not only your bank that holds your money or assets. Tax authority can direct anybody anywhere in the world who holds or will hold any of your assets, land, buildings, motor vehicles, equipment, goods for sale, and others to pay your tax from what they have. And if they fail or refuse to do so, the law will switch your tax wahala to them. They will become the tax debtor. Similarly, the new tax laws have empowered the Nigerian Revenue Service to sell your business and its assets except immovable property, where the tax due from you or your business has become final and conclusive. And this is again without your consent and without a court order. In addition, if for all practical purposes, the tax authorities cannot get you to pay tax or cannot ascertain your correct income, let alone your correct tax, due to lack of adequate information, they will resort to presumptive taxation as per Section 29 of NTA 2025. Under this regime or basis, they will assess you and tax you anyhow they like, and the onus will be on you to dispute their assessment. And you ask, why all this? I will tell you. Unpaid tax is now a debt to the relevant tax authority, to Nigeria, to Lagos State government, to Kano State government, to Enugu State government, to any particular state government. Consequently, tax authority can now deploy all debt recovery measures to recover the tax debt. Two, these new tax laws are very good. They are pro-poor, they are pro-low income earners, and they are pro-good civic citizen. All you need to do is just harness them. We have identified over 105 tax incentives which you can apply to reduce your tax. Visit our YouTube channel and see the 105 tax incentives. Farmers, traders, artisans, employees who earn low are either exempted from paying tax or they pay less. For instance, workers who earn the minimum wage do not pay income tax, and whatever you earn, the first 800,000 of your taxable income is tax-free. In addition, small companies with annual gross turnover of 15 million naira or less do not pay income tax. They do not pay the minimum levy and have nothing to do with VAT. Also, small businesses of annual gross turnover of 100 million or less do not have anything to do with VAT. They don't pay VAT, they don't collect VAT, and they don't remit VAT. And please, if you truly want to enjoy tax freedom, just follow us to the end of this video so that you can meet the masters of tax freedom. In addition, to be constantly updated and strengthened on tax development and education, all you need to do is just follow us as we release more videos for tax education and enlightenment. And to get the videos hot and fresh, kindly like, subscribe, hit the notification button now, and share so that as many people as possible will be notified and sufficiently educated, and your life will never remain the same. What are you going to learn in this compass, in this video? You're going to learn the golden rule of tax freedom, power of tax authority to take your money in the bank and other assets without a court order, Power of tax authority to sell your business as and its assets without a court order. Power of tax authority to enter your business premises with warrant and reasonable force. Power of tax authority to conduct investigation and arrest persons. Power of tax authority to impose additional penalties of 10% and interest on compound basis. Now, unpaid tax has become a debt. Power to assign and recover tax debts. Power of tax authority to impose presumptive tax on evading and dishonest taxable persons. Some tips on how to avoid tax offenses and penalties. The important decision to make is yours. List of the 22 interdependent compasses about tax corp and the authors. Now, the golden rule of tax freedom. Dear friend, do you want to be free from tax wahala? No disturbance of your sleep by a taxman, no knocking at your door by a tax lady, no receipt of long queries by your business from a tax controller, no receipt of unsolicited reminders or threats by your company, no blocking of your bank accounts by the tax chairman, no debiting of your bank account at the directive of a tax authority, no barging into you by law enforcement officers, no forceful entry into your business premises by tax officers and law enforcement officers, no threat of imprisonment by a law court, no selling of your business or its assets without a court order after the tax has become final and conclusive by Nigerian Revenue Service. Dear friend, if your answer to above compound question is a capital yes, then obey the golden rule of tax freedom. And you ask, what is this golden rule of tax freedom? And we tell you that it is called the three C's. And the three C's are comply, comply, and comply. Power of tax authority to take your money and not other assets without a court order. The relevant tax authority, Nigerian Revenue Service or a state internal revenue service, has power under the Nigerian Tax Administration Act 2025 to appoint any person who is in possession or who will be in possession of any of your assets, buildings, vehicles, money, or funds to pay any tax due and payable by you from those assets, money or funds in their possession without a court order if you fail or refuse to pay the tax. The agent so appointed shall pay your tax from your assets which they have in their possession. And if they fail to do so, they will replace you and carry the tax wahala as if they were the original taxable person. In addition, tax authority will put out a request to the public asking for anybody who has information about the location of your assets, money, or funds to tell them like a whistleblower. Section 61 of Nigerian Tax Administration Act specifically states that the relevant tax authority may, without an order of the High Court and by notice in writing, appoint any person to be the agent of a taxable person where any tax has become due and payable and the taxable person has refused or failed to pay, or the agent appointed is in possession or is expected to be in possession of the money, funds, or assets of the taxable person. The agent so appointed for the taxable person shall be required to pay any tax payable by the taxable person from any money, funds, or assets of the person which may be held by the agent or the person. Where the agent so appointed defaults or all such enforcement and recovery actions, including the power to distrain the money, funds, or asset of the person, shall apply as if the agent so appointed were originally liable. They will just take the place of the original taxable person and bear the consequences. For the purpose of recovering the tax, the relevant tax authority may require any person to give information as to money, funds, or other assets which may be held for or due to the person. However, the provisions of the Act with respect to objections and appeals shall apply to any notice given under this Act as if such notice were an assessment or demand notice. Power of tax authority to sell your business and its assets without a court order. The Nigerian Revenue Service has power under Nigerian Tax Administration Act 2025 to sell your business and its assets anywhere they may be found in the world except immovable property without your consent and without a court order, where the tax due from you or your business has become final and conclusive. In addition, a tax officer by the written authority of the chairman of the Nigerian Tax Authority, can break open any building or enter into your business premises during daytime and destroy as much of your business assets as will pay your tax. The tax authority will keep the destroyed asset at your cost and charges for 14 days. And if after the 14 days you do not pay the tax, cost, or charges, tax authority will sell off the destroyed assets, pay off the incidental costs and charges of the destroyed, pay off the tax, and return balance to you, if any. Section 61 of Nigerian Tax Administration Act states that where an assessment has become final and conclusive and a demand notice has been served on a person or a company, or on a person or a company whose name that person is chargeable, and the payment of the tax is not made within the time specified by the demand notice, the relevant tax authority may, in the prescribed form, for the purpose of enforcing payment of the tax due, distrain that person or corporate body by their goods, charters, bonds, or other assets. Distrain any land, premises, place, or anything in respect of which person or corporate body is the owner, and recover the amount of tax due by sale of anything so distrained. The authority to distrain under this section shall be in the form contained in the third schedule to this act, and such authority shall be sufficient warrant and authority to levy by distrain the amount of any tax due. For the purpose of levying any distrain under this section, any officer duly authorized by the relevant authority may execute any warrant of distrain and, if necessary, break open any building or place in daytime for the purpose of levying such distrain. And relevant tax authority may call for police assistance, and the police shall, when so required, aid and assist in the execution of any warrant of distrain and in levying the distrain. Assets distrained by the service under this section may, at the cost of the person or corporate body, be kept for 14 days. And at the end of that time, if the amount due in respect of the tax, costs, or charges incidental to the strain are not paid, they may, subject to refund of the residue or proceeds, be sold without an order of the High Court, subject to immovable property, without prejudice to the power of Nigerian Revenue Service to sell off assets detained by any other relevant authority under this section, may, at the cost of that person or corporate body, be kept for 14 days. And at the end of that time, if the amount due in respect of the tax, costs, and charges incidental to the strain are not paid, they may, subject to payment of expenses, be sold only with an order of the High Court, subject to refund of proceed residue. Where there is a sale in accordance with sale by the Nigerian Revenue Service, a part of the proceeds of such sale shall in the first instance be used to pay the cost of keeping all the expenses incidental to the sale of the asset so distrained. The amount due in respect of that shall be paid. The balance of the proceeds, if any, shall be refunded to that person with or without a demand made within 90 days of the date of the sale. The provision of this section shall not be construed to authorize the sale of any movable property without an order of the High Court as prescribed by the rules of the court. In the exercise of the powers of the strain conferred by this section, the person to whom the authority is granted under Section 3 may distrain all assets, goods, chattels, and effects belonging to the debtor wherever they may be found anywhere in the world. This provision shall also apply in the case of recovery relating to tax evasion and proceeds of crime where the offender cannot be found. Power of tax authority to enter your business premises with a warrant and reasonable force. Section 62 of Nigerian Tax Administration Act states that tax authority has power to use reasonable force to do the following, among others: to levy distrain, to enter your premises, to search for, seize, or take possession of any book, document, to seize property or asset, to inspect, make copies of digital copies, computers, open, examine, search any article, open any door, window of any premises, remove by reasonable force any obstruction to such entry, request the taxpayer to provide passwords, access codes, and other relevant information required to access the books and records, bodily search a person by a person of the same gender, man to man, woman to woman. Power of tax authority to conduct investigation and arrest persons with the aid of law enforcement agencies. Tax authority has power to conduct an investigation into your business affairs where it deems fit. For this purpose, tax authority is empowered to appoint special purpose tax officers (SPTO) to do that. In addition, tax authority is empowered to arrest persons with the aid of law enforcement agencies. Section 64 of Nigerian Tax Authority states that notwithstanding the provisions of any other law, the state authority shall have the power to investigate or cause an investigation to be conducted to ascertain any violation of any tax law, whether or not such violation has been reported to the relevant tax authority, and shall also have the power to arrest any person suspected of committing such violations through relevant law enforcement agencies. The relevant tax authority may employ special purpose tax officers for the purpose of Section 1 to carry out investigation of any offense under this act and may seek the assistance of any relevant law enforcement agency. When an investigation under this section reveals the commission of any tax offense or an attempt to commit an offense, the relevant tax authority shall, under Section 139 of this Act, undertake the prosecution of the offenses. Where a relevant tax authority is satisfied that any property is a subject matter in a tax investigation under this Act, or evidence in relation to the commission of tax offense, is under the custody, control, or possession of any person, it may, upon an order of a judicial officer, direct the person not to part with, deal in, dispose of such property or any part of it pending the conclusion of the investigation. A person shall not be liable to any legal proceedings on act of this compliance with an order of a judicial officer under subsection 5. Power of tax authority to impose additional penalties of 10% and interest on compound basis for non-payment of tax. Dear friends, notwithstanding any other penalties, every tax that is not paid within the prescribed period attracts the following three extra penalties. One is 10% of the amount of tax not paid as and when due. Two is interest as CBN monetary policy rate plus spread. And three, what is interest calculated on compound basis. Section 65 of Nigerian Tax Administration Act said that subject to Section 67 of this Act, where any tax is not paid within the period prescribed under this Act, a sum equal to 10% of the amount of the tax payable shall be added to it, and the provisions of this Act relating to the collection and recovery of tax shall apply to the collection and recovery of the sum. In the case of Naira remittances, the tax due shall carry interest at the prevailing monetary policy rate of the CBN plus spread to be determined by the minister from the date when the date tax becomes payable until it is paid. And the provisions of this are relating to collection and recovery of tax shall apply to the collection and recovery of the interest. And in the case of foreign currency remittance, the tax due shall incur interest at the prevailing secured overnight financial rate or any successor rate plus 10% or such other spread to be determined by the minister from the date when the tax becomes payable until it is paid. And the provisions of the Act relating to collection and recovery of tax shall apply to the collection and recovery of the interest. The relevant tax authority shall serve a demand notice on the company or person in whose name the tax is chargeable, and where payment is not made within 30 days for the date of the service of such demand notice, the relevant tax authority may proceed to enforce payment under this Act. The penalty and interest imposed under this substance shall not be deemed to be part of the tax paid for the purpose of claiming relief under any of the provisions of this Act or any other tax law. Unpaid tax is now treated as a debt owed tax authority and will be recovered accordingly. Dear friend, unpaid tax is now treated as a debt owed the relevant tax authority. Consequently, every debt recovery strategy, measure, and tool will be adopted, applied, and deployed to recover the debt by the tax authority. The recovery measures include the following 9 measures: charging of 10% penalty, charging of interest at MPR plus spread on compound basis, legal proceedings, investigation of tax authority and special purpose tax officers, assignment to debt recovery agents, reasonable forceful distraint, recovery of the tax through custodians of your assets and money, like banks, selling off your assets, movable and immovable, selling off your entire business. Section 67 of Nigerian Tax Administration Act state that without prejudice to any other provisions of the Act or any other relevant act, any tax due shall constitute a debt due to the relevant tax authority and its government, whether it's federal government, Lagos State government, Kano government, Abia State government. It is now, your tax is now a debt to them, and they will do everything to recover the money. Where the tax due is not paid within 30 days, relevant tax authority may issue demand notice for the payment of the tax plus penalty and interest. Where the tax plus the penalty and interest is not paid on the date indicated in the notice, the relevant tax authority may exercise any of the powers under this act for the recovery of the amount, including legal action brought against you. The relevant tax authority shall not make any demand after 6 years from the date of underassessment or erroneous repayment. Power of tax authority to assign and recover tax debts. For the purpose of recovering unpaid tax, tax authority can assign or transfer outstanding tax debts in whole and part to an accredited tax a third party to recover. Similarly, the tax authority can reverse or cancel the assignment if it so desires. Section 68 of the Nigerian Tax Administration Act states that the relevant tax authority may assign outstanding tax debts in whole or in part to an accredited third party who shall assume responsibility for recovering the tax debts in accordance with the provisions of this act or regulation issued by the service. The relevant tax authority shall only assign outstanding tax debt to a third party where all legal steps for tax recovery has been taken. The debt to be recovered is deemed to be of significant value. Power of tax authority to impose presumptive tax regime or basis. Dear friends, where for all practical purposes, the income of a person chargeable to tax under Nigerian Tax Act 2025 cannot be ascertained or records are not kept in such a manner as to enable proper assessment of income, then such person shall be assessed on presumptive tax basis. This means that if a taxable person, individual, sole trader, sole proprietor, company, businessman, businesswoman, inadvertently or deliberately dodges tax and makes it difficult for tax authority to ascertain their true income for proper assessment, the tax authority will have no choice than to resort to presumptive tax assessment. This basis simply means that the tax authority will tax you as it so desires, will tax you anyhow. Section 29 of NTA 2025 states that, notwithstanding any provisions of Chapter 2 of NTA, where for all practical purposes the income of a person chargeable to tax under this act cannot be ascertained or records are not kept in such a manner as to enable proper assessment of income, then such a person shall be assessed on such terms and conditions as may be prescribed by the minister on the advice of the Joint Revenue Board in a regulation under presumptive tax regime. Presumptive tax regime simply means tax authority will tax you as it deems fit. Now, some tips on how to avoid tax offenses and penalties. We don't really want you to pay too much, which you know, and thereby we are now giving you some tips that you can apply. First, know your tax law very well, please. Two, be proactive, seek advice timely where necessary. Three, keep a comprehensive register of all tax compliances. It will help. Regularly and periodically check compliance on compliance list. Where feasible, have an auto check of compliance. Register for all registrable, including tax and VAT, timely and correctly. Charge all chargeables, collect all collectibles, pay all payables, balance all balanceable, remit all remittable. Keep comprehensive and accurate record of all your business transactions. Keep all documents. Accurately complete and timely submit all returns monthly, quarterly, half yearly, and annually to the relevant tax authority. And please do this on or before the due date. And most importantly, watch this. Regularly consult or hand over your compliance matters to tax corp. Important decision to make. Dear friend, the decision to do better is yours now. You have seen some of the massively expanded powers of the tax authorities, both at the federal and state levels. You can no longer gamble with your assets in Nigeria or elsewhere. Your money in Nigerian banks or elsewhere. Your assets, money or funds in the custody of other persons in Nigeria or abroad, or your business that you have labored for so many years to grow. Why? You can wake up one day and find out that the tax authorities have snapped all of them. So what do? The choice is now yours. Revisit the golden rule of tax freedom and be truly tax free. Deeply study and strictly apply our tips for avoidance of tax offenses and penalties. If you want more, just hand over your tax life and that of your business to Tax Corp. Live with the 22 interdependent compasses and more as we release the videos. Just simply like the video, subscribe so that you can be getting our releases as soon as we do them. Here are the list of the 22 interdependent compasses. Just go through them and select the one that you want to deal with at any point in time. And if you desire any one, if you desire additional, please just ask us and we'll attend to you immediately. Now we want to know a little bit again about Tax Corp, and here is it: the Tax Corp and the principal consultant. Tax Corp is a Nigerian tax consulting firm which specializes in tax matters. Prince Chidi, FCA, FCTA, MBA, is a principal consultant. Prince Chidi is a licensed fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICAN, and the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, CITN. Tax Corp and Prince Chidi have provided tax services to numerous individuals and corporate bodies in both the public and private sectors, locally and internationally, since 1990, over 3 decades. The beneficiaries include the Nigerian Revenue Service, formerly the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, RAMFAC, state internal revenue services such as Lagos State Government, Abia State Government, Kano State Government, Enugu State Government, Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service, and many private companies and individuals. For details on the new Nigerian Tax Acts, the Nigerian Tax Compass, and how Tax Hub can help you, please contact us. You have our contact details, and once you get to us, we will get to you. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day.